You go ahead and restart Skype and we'll try again. Go all the way out of Skype and back in. All right?
Yep.
All right.
All right.
I just,
What do you need? Yeah.
um,
and,
when he calls back, there will be a
Is there
green
a
button.
discussion?
All right, I will accept.
What's the art say?
Well, it's gonna be later than that now, because the 6:30 meeting hasn't gotten off the ground, so, but there will be one, concession once we come back,
So,
the Woodward.
Yes,
Yeah, probably.
that's on our agenda. You want to know what time it's on the agenda?
Well,
7:05.
It's probably gonna be closer to 7:20 or 25, yeah.
I'd say 7:30 or.
Yeah.
8 maybe.
okay. How's that?
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Carlisle Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, January 8th, 2019. We are running a little bit late, 25 minutes late, and I do apologize for that. At 6:30, we are going to convene in open session, as we are right now, but we are immediately going to go into executive session. When we come out of executive session, we will be accepting community input. We will be discussing the Woodward Conservation Restriction. We will hear a report from the Housing Authority Subcommittee and consider appointments to the Housing Authority. We will be doing recommendation for hiring a facilities manager, hearing from the Agricultural Commission on a right to farm bylaw. We will be doing appointments, cemetery deeds, receive the town administrator's reports, do Board of Liaison reports, and then minutes. And then at the end, we will be entering again into executive session, and will not be returning to open session. Or
Never to return.
so with that, is there a motion to enter into executive session?
No, before you do that, I would like to open the Housing Trust meeting at the same time. Housing Trust meeting of January 8th, 2019, and we will also be going into executive session immediately.
Okay.
And then we will be coming back out to
Open session.
open session, and then we'll adjourn. The Housing Trust will adjourn.
Okay.
Okay, so I move the Board of Selectmen enter.
Excuse, if I could, I think the motion misstates the exemption. It's not paragraph 3, litigation, it's
purpose one.
purpose 1, to hear complaints against a public officer or employee. It's on the agenda correctly, but the motion is, we should refer to purpose 1
Purpose one.
of the exemptions to the open
Okay, I'll
meeting
see if
law.
I can figure this out then. Move that the Board of Selectmen enter into a joint executive session with the Carlisle Affordable Housing Trust. So not pursuant to MGL, Chapter 30A?
Oh, it is.
Oh, okay. Paragraph. So is, all this is still
That might
good?
be, that one might be, I'm looking at a wrong motion. You might have the correct one there.
Paragraph
That's the
30A,
one that Ivrea had drafted.
Section 21,
21,
A1?
correct.
Okay, so that is
That's-
correct.
Okay, you have the correct one,
All right.
sorry. Yep.
To discuss an open meeting law complaint filed against the members of the Board of Selectmen and the Carlisle Affordable Housing Trust on December 20th, 2018, to invite Tim Goddard, Ivrea, I hope I spelled that, pronounced that right, Glass, Freed, and nobody,
Anybody else?
Nobody else.
nobody else, to attend the joint executive session and to reconvene an open session for the purpose of continuing on with the items as listed in the Board of Selectmen's agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Brown, aye.
Kissinger, aye.
Reed, aye.
Oscar Lilloye.
Lewis, I.
Is that for the selectmen? They both boards have to do that?
Yeah, and also, we're going, if you can just amend that motion, I didn't realize Carrie was gonna be coming in remotely. You have to say in the motion that someone is coming in remotely, so.
Okay, so that and
Right
blank,
now. Yeah, just say.
and Selectman Carrie Kissinger remotely.
Okay.
I accept
do
the
you-
amendment.
Hey, well, do you accept the amendment?
Yep.
Accept the
Okay.
amendment.
All right, do we have to vote again? Brown, aye.
Kissinger, aye.
Reed, aye.
Oscar Lilloye.
Lewis, I.
Okay.
Okay, I need another motion.
Okay, I move that the Carlisle Affordable Housing Trust enter into a joint executive session with the Board of Selectmen pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A1, to discuss an open meeting law complaint filed against the members of the Carlisle Affordable Housing Trust and the Board of Selectmen on December 20th, 2018, and to invite Tim Goddard and Ivrea Glass Freed, and noting that Carrie Kissinger will be attending remotely, to attend the joint executive session and to reconvene in open session for the purpose of adjourning the meeting.
Second.
Adjourning. Okay,
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Lewis, I.
Oscar Lilloye.
Brown eye?
Kissinger, aye.
Reed, aye. Okay, that
Okay.
passes unanimously.
We are in executive
Thank you.
session,
So I'm
and I
going,
am so sorry. Okay. Thank you all. I'm very sorry that we are running so late, but we are now returning to open session for the Board of Selectmen that we had previously opened at about 10 minutes of 7. So at this point, I've already read through the agenda. I won't do that again. At this point, we will be taking any community input.
Do we have to close the trust meeting?
Oh, sorry, we have one more piece of business, yes.
Sorry.
I need a motion to
I
close the
move,
trust
I
meeting.
move that to close to adjourn the Carlisle Affordable Trust meeting.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Kissinger, aye.
What, I don't think we need to do a roll
We do
call
because
for.
he's
Oh,
remote.
we got a remote.
Brown eye?
Reed, aye?
Oscar Lilo, aye.
Lewis, aye.
Kissinger, aye.
Okay,
Okay.
we got you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for,
You're welcome.
okay, public input.
Pay attention a little bit.
Hi, Desiree Ball, Prospect Street. On November 13th, you had a meeting here, and it was that infamous meeting where there was about an hour and a half's discussion of the deer hunt in the public comment section at the beginning. And at the end of that discussion, Carrie Kissinger made a very important comment, I thought, which I've transcribed, and I'd like to read just a couple sentences from it, just to kind of jog your memory. He said, "I'd like to say just one thing, and it's about process. The Selectmen's meeting is a meeting for the Selectmen to do the business of the town, as opposed to a public hearing, which is a very different kind of a meeting. This has not been a public hearing, it's been a Selectmen's meeting. We relish community input, which we have at every meeting, but this amount of time that we've dedicated to this is somewhat extraordinary. I just want you to know that. It's not normal for us to be having our little meeting and inviting this much time on a topic where we've had plenty of information coming in from public comment. Now, at your next meeting, which was on the 27th of November, I was the first person to come up and comment, and I read a letter from Judy Asserkoff where she asked if there was going to be a public meeting on the deer hunt. And this is what you responded. At the end of the last meeting, the next step was for the Deer Committee to have an open public meeting where they would invite people in to gather feedback and make a recommendation based upon that feedback to the Board of Selectmen as to whether or not putting deer hunting on the town meeting agenda was appropriate. And so it seems to me we have that forum, and there is yet another forum after that, which would be town meeting. And so I think we have everything in place to be able to gather the appropriate feedback. We will make sure that it's well advertised when this meeting is happening, and then we can come back to the Board of Selectmen with their recommendation, and then they, meaning the Deer Committee, can come back to the Board of Selectmen with their recommendation as we charge to them. Does anybody disagree with that? And that's when Kate Reed said, "I'd like to point out that when we embarked upon this whole thing, the Deer Committee and the Board of Selectmen held a joint open forum. In fact, I believe there were 2 that were held. So people had already had ample opportunity before we even embarked on the whole thing to weigh in. And I think that's an appropriate way to finish. Maybe we'd want to do it again as we did it before so that we actually," and then you kind of interrupted and said, "What I think makes sense is they do it first, and of course, when they present, it will be an open Board of Selectmen's meeting." Now, I would like to know what is actually going to happen about this open meeting that's not going to be a Board of Selectmen meeting, but an open meeting for public comment on the deer hunt. That's my comment.
Okay.
I stuck my foot in it again, sorry.
So I think, Carrie, has there been a meeting to discuss it?
Yes, there was a meeting,
Uh,
last week, I believe, or Monday. I'm not sure which. I was not able to attend, but the folks were invited. The meeting was posted. Folks were invited to attend and provide input. Just as I believe, as a result of that meeting, also they held a vote. The Deer Committee held a vote to whether or not to recommend taking this question to town meeting in April. And it's my understanding that they voted affirmatively to do that, and that they would be recommending that to the Board of Selectmen for their consideration.
And do we have it on our agenda to hear that yet?
Oh, here it is.
You did have them, yeah, scheduled for the 22nd, I believe. That request, one article.
Okay. Yeah, this is new. This wasn't emailed, right? This is
No.
just
No,
news.
it just-
Okay.
It was in the DocuSign.
Oh, it wasn't? It wasn't it? Okay.
From the committee.
This was in the packet?
Yeah, I haven't read it. I've read the packet. I didn't see this, but okay.
Okay, well, we're in public meeting right now. I'm gonna propose that we chat about this when we talk about our schedule. Because I think it can apply to a schedule.
The Deer Committee met on the 2nd, Wednesday the 2nd.
Okay. Okay, is there any other public input?
I'm Jean Janetsko from Maple Street in Carlisle. The Deer Committee, I was at the Deer Committee on January 2nd, and at the meeting, they completed their final report and voted on it and approved it, and said that they were going to send it out to the Board of Selectmen on Friday, 1/4/19, this past Friday. And I'm asking that an electronic copy of that report be made available to the public as soon as you can, so that we can review it. My reference to the recommendation for the Board of Selectmen, well, excuse me, what Carrie had said is not what I had heard at the Deer Committee meeting. The information was given over to five people that were going to vote on whether or not that the deer hunt should be turned over to a vote by the town citizens. 3 people, Todd Thorson of the Board of Health, Steve Smith of CONSCOM, and Steve Tobin of the Trails Committee, voted emphatically for the town vote. Deer agent Dan Bohanek and citizen at large John Keating voted to abstain because they felt it was out of their charter to vote on such a question. I wanted to say I concur with those 3 who were in favor of the town citizens having a vote on whether to have a deer hunt, because it is what we do to have a democracy in Carlisle. The last thing I want to mention is that the whole meeting was basically, we were, the public was observers. We really didn't participate. We were told that they couldn't give us a copy of the report then, or even when it was finished, that it would all have to come through you. So we did make some comments there on what we had heard. But the issue of hunters being allowed to place cameras in the woods came up. And if we were to assume 1 camera per hunter, that is 18 cameras. But of course, some hunters may have chosen more. The cameras were mounted months before the hunt took place. Privacy for the hikers was taken away without their knowledge. In retrospect, I would have recommended for the signs that the deer hunting signs contain a notice that active filming with hidden cameras was occurring in the woods. And this would have been especially interesting to the Romeo and Juliets of Carlisle. At the end of the discussion on camera usage, it was felt by the Deer Committee that the town did not have an official position on whether these mounted cameras should be allowed. And hopefully, if the final report of the Deer Committee doesn't recommend this, I ask the town to take this into consideration.
Okay, thank you. Any other public input? Okay, seeing none, we will go ahead and talk about the Woodward Conservation Restriction. other people here too. Okay.
Just like to pass out a copy of some plans so that you understand the property that's being discussed tonight. The town acquired 2 of the Woodward lots, Lot 1 and Lot 2 on the plan that's being circulated at 767 Bedford Road, partially with CPC funds last year. As a condition of using CPC funds, a conservation restriction must be placed on the property. The Carlisle Conservation Foundation has agreed to hold the conservation restriction. In discussing the terms of the CR, it was raised that the town may want to, one day in the future, run a water pipe across the northern portion of the property to Maple Street, mostly along Lot 1. And for way of background, in 1997, the town purchased the O'Rourke land that's just north and east of the Woodward parcel. In 1991, the town sold this land to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, but retained water rights in the land. So one day, if the town wants to, it could develop those rights, and in developing those rights, they may want to run a pipe to access the water through this land to Maple Street. Additionally, if the Woodward land, which I believe is part of Lot 3, is eventually developed, a water pipe you might want to run a water pipe from that portion of Lot 3 to Maple Street as well. So in negotiating the terms of the conservation restriction, the Carlisle Conservation Foundation had no issue with the town using the property in this way. So we included a condition in the conservation restriction that would allow for the burying of a pipe in this land. The Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, who has to approve all of the conservation restrictions in the state, however, had some issues with the potential permission. Specifically, they flagged the provision because it potentially violated Article 97 of the Constitution, the state constitution. And Article 97 preserves parkland or land that's put to public use for conservation purposes. And if a property owner wants to dispose of that land or change the use of that land, then in order to do so, they need approval of the legislature. That's what we call Article 97 approval. In addition to getting approval of the legislature, you would need to devote a parcel of equal or greater size to conservation purposes. So EEA is taking the position that if the town wants to bury a pipe in this land, which is Article 97 land, that's a change in use, and it would require approval of the legislature to do that. So in Town Council's office, we question this position. We think that it's a very strict reading. The land is still going to be used as conservation purposes. The pipe's going to be buried, trees, minimal cutting. This is agricultural land, mostly, so no cutting in most of the portion of the property anyways. But EEA wasn't budging. And so there's 2 options for the town. The first option is to continue to include a provision in the conservation restriction that would allow for the pipe to be buried in this property. However, you would have to agree that if and when the town wanted to do that, to bury the pipe, they would have to go through the Article 97 process. So you would basically be agreeing today that in the future you would go through that approval process. Option 2 is to have the conservation restriction remain silent on this issue. That would mean that in order to actually bury the pipe, you would need to amend the conservation restriction. The benefit of doing it that way is that if in the future EEA changes its position and believes that you can bury a pipe on conservation land without changing its use, and that you don't need to go through the Article 97 process, the town wouldn't have committed itself already. So one requires amending the conservation restriction and maybe also going through the Article 97 process. The other, you wouldn't have to amend the conservation restriction in the future, but you're committing the town to going through the Article 97 process. So those are the 2 options that are presented tonight. They both have potential pitfalls, but both can result in the solution that the town wants if you do want to ever develop the property in this way.
Anybody have any questions?
No, I think the options are clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say though,
Any,
that when next we do any conservation restrictions, we dig our trenches first.
Yeah.
Or we try to provide, some other mechanism,
Yes.
like an easement or whatever.
Yes.
I mean, if we had just identified it, it wouldn't have been a problem. but
Yeah,
it's
that's
Right.
just, so
Yeah.
I'm,
It's just a mess, there's lots of things going on. and-
yeah,
So
it's
just-
frustrating, isn't
It's
it?
not.
Now, well, so I guess that question is there any way to amend the conservation restriction, the boundaries of it to give us a corridor, some sort of an easement or something like that, so that we don't have to go through all this stuff?
Unfortunately, the answer to that question is no, because the property itself was already acquired pursuant to a town meeting vote that required that the whole
Meets the
land,
bounds, yeah.
be used for
Okay, got it.
conservation purposes.
All right.
Yeah.
Worth asking the question.
So,
Is there another route from the federal land to Maple Street that doesn't involve any of these restricted properties?
over private property,
Right, so we could take an easement over private property would be one option, and actually,
There's that abutting property of the Dutro,
right.
Right.
Carol's land. Maybe we could approach her later, see if she would
And this
let
is
us do that.
all, my understanding is that this is all pretty theoretical at this point.
Right.
It is, but Carlisle has water issues, and we need to be very vigilant about protecting them. And so I'm upset that we kind of let that.
so
slip through the
our
cracks.
two options, one is we let it remain silent, we kind of have this agreement, or is there, we could go back and say, well, this was here, talk to the conservation restriction holder, say, are you still willing to let us do this? And then either go through or not go through the Article 97.
Correct. And if that's option
Two.
that's option
Yeah.
2. Option 1, which includes the term right now in the conservation restriction, would still require approval of the easement holder or the holder of the restriction before you can build the pipe anyways. So it's a little different because amending a CR does take some work. You have to go to the state, but you still need the holder's approval in either case.
So it seems to me like, I don't know, my opinion would be option 2.
Yeah, leave it silent.
And leave it
Yeah.
silent and get past this and, if at some point that happens to be where we want to put a public well, because that's what this is about, right?
Yep.
Potential public well, we can deal with it then.
Yeah, my understanding is the well wouldn't be on this property. It would just be the pipe.
Right, no, but
Yeah.
it would be connecting to.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
A well.
A public well,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
So does anybody have anything else that, anybody want to chime in on anything?
Shocking.
Just to be clear, I don't think this was a missed opportunity. I mean, the property was purchased for conservation purposes, and the technicalities about the way EOEA is looking at this couldn't be anticipated. Town council has made it clear that they think that this is an overly strict reading of it in any event. But there was not an opportunity, and there would have been no way for anybody with any foresight to basically say, let's get some money from somewhere else to do this, such that this small part of it might not be for that purpose. I don't think it's fair to say that this was a missed opportunity. I think it was done exactly as it should be. And the idea of the water route was actually came up after the whole purchase was done. And you're gonna be in a similar position with the theoretical approval of the development at the adjacent property, where there'll be 32 acres that will be given to the town for conservation. it's also going to be given to the town for conservation. That's the whole point of the bylaws. The land has to be for conservation, and we're not at that point going to do anything to try to reserve rights. We'll do it exactly the same way. There will be a CR that will be silent on this issue, and again, it's very, very theoretical that this would ever happen. So it's not really kicking it down the road, kicking the can down the road. It's if and when the town needs that water, the town will figure out what the best route is, and it may not even be through this
Right.
project. So
Yeah, let's just hope
it's
if we
really
get to
pretty
the point where
it's
that's
pretty
the only water in town, somebody's working with us to make sure that we can get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So
So-
I will let CCF know, and we can move forward.
Good, but,
Oh, sorry.
but it's,
Do we need
did everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Option,
Yeah.
option two? Do we have
Option
to
two.
vote on this? No? Okay. That was, I heard everybody say yes.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, reports from the Housing Authority Subcommittee, appointments to the Housing Authority. So, Jerry, do you want to give a quick update?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Nathan, we had 5 people in town express an interest in being members of the Housing Authority, with the understanding that these would be temporary appointments until the next town election, at which point permanent Housing Authority members would or could be elected. There are 3 open positions on the Housing Authority currently. There were 5 people that expressed an interest. The subcommittee interviewed or spoke with by either personally or by phone with all 5 of them, and determined that a couple of things. One is that at the time that we originally looked at the number, we thought that it would be important for someone who had at least some level of experience with town committees to be represented on the Housing Authority. And we use that as part of the decision-making process to determine which 3 of the 5 we would recommend to the Board of Selectmen for appointment to the Housing Authority. Those 3 persons are David Friedman, Beverly Shorey, and George Payne. The other 2 persons, Bob Supnick and Ted Brewster, were contacted subsequent to that recommendation for the subcommittee, and we told them that they were no longer in consideration and thanked them for stepping forward. And we have also confirmed with David Friedman, Beverly Shorey, and George Payne that we would be recommending them to the Board of Selectmen at this meeting for approval.
Does anybody have any questions? Nothing?
I read all of it. I just read this stuff, so. Up to speed.
Could we just go through, I'm not sure, I'm sorry, I had to step out. Just want to recognize like who was on the subcommittee.
Yeah, we didn't
The subcommittee
recognize.
consisted of Nathan Brown, Maureen Geary, who is a resident at Enfield Farms, and Carrie Kissinger.
Okay, I just wanted to recognize that.
Want a motion?
Sure.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint.
Yep, sorry, Tim?
Sorry?
Sorry to interrupt. If I could suggest some additional language, you had the motion in front of you, but the town council has prepared certificates of appointment for these 3 individuals. And if we could reference in the motion the position that they are replacing on the Housing Authority, that would be consistent with the language that the certification the town clerk has to make to the state.
Okay.
So I
Is that
can,
written anywhere for me to read, or?
no, but I can say that in the motion,
Okay.
David Friedman of 301 Hutchins Road is replacing Morgan Burse.
Okay. Yeah.
Beverly Shorey replaces Stephen Perlman, And George Payne replaces Mark Levitan, all of whom resigned from the board.
George Payne, sorry.
George
Dave
Payne
Friedman is Morgan Burse.
Replaces Morgan Burse. George Payne replaces Mark Levitan.
And Mark
Beverly
Levitan.
Shorey replaces Stephen Perlman.
Okay. So I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint David Friedman at 301 Hutchinson Road to fill the chair of Morgan Burse, George Payne at 575 South Street to fill the chair of Mark Levitan, Beverly Shorey of 200 Tophet Road to replace Stephen Perlman, to fill, thus filling the vacancies on the Carlisle Affordable Housing Authority through the May 7th, 2019 annual town election as recommended by the Affordable Housing Subcommittee.
Second.
Okay, so there's a first and a second. Any further discussion? Anybody want to say anything?
David?
You asked
You
us
were
all to
pressing
be,
it.
you asked us all to be here. so-
Yeah, no, thank you. Just in case anybody had questions.
Okay, but for the record, all three of us are here, so this is Beverly Shorey, this is George Payne, and you know who I am.
Thank you. And I do appreciate you all being here.
I'd love to see you all at our January 10th Affordable Housing Trust meeting as well. You're totally invited to that one as well.
Well, we'll ask you a lot more questions.
And you'll need to designate a CPC rep.
We'll intend to be there.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of Brown eye?
Oskalilowite?
Reed, aye.
Kissinger, aye.
Lewis, aye.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I wasn't joking about the CPC rep.
Hey, we're getting caught up.
So just for some housekeeping, can I make another
Yes,
motion?
please.
I'd like to move we amend the minutes of November 13th to list Chairman Brown's proposal for addressing the Housing Authority and the Carlisle Affordable Housing Trust going forward as a document presented.
Second.
Okay, first and second, any further discussion, any questions? Okay, all those in favor, Brown eye?
Oskalilowite, sorry.
That's all right. Reed, aye.
Lewis, aye.
Kissinger, aye.
That's what it's better to have in order.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we started here, we
Well,
started
Why don't we
there.
just start from left
Just
to
go
right?
down
Yeah,
the
that's
line,
what,
yeah.
yeah,
It's easier,
exactly.
okay? And Terry, you're the furthest right, so you.
You go last.
He doesn't know where he is.
Yeah.
He's the furthest south.
Yeah.
Okay,
Seconder, right?
we will move on to recommendation for hiring a facilities manager.
For the Carlisle schools.
No, for the town.
For the town.
Well, then why do we have the Carlisle school guy in there?
Because it was recommended he be appointed as a non-voting member of the facilities committee.
Oh, I'm sorry, is that for the facilities committee?
That's for the, yeah, Rob Furtado.
I think
Oh.
there are two different things with
It's the
the
school.
Okay, because that's not what it looked like from the motion I was reading, sorry.
Is that right? There's two different things here?
Where,
There's two,
hang on.
there's two different items, yeah. School
I'm gonna
facilities
hire-
manager and,
5. I have nothing in 5.
So we don't, yeah, we don't have anything.
But-
actually, I can,
But I had all this
pass
stuff.
out, the individual's resume. You'll recall that
Oh.
we advertised the position
7.
without success over the summer months, re-advertised it
Oh.
again
That's where I got
this
confused.
fall. And interviewed a number of candidates. I did, along with Kate, John Mativia, the building commissioner, and Bill Rizzo, citizen at large and expert on most things that we do. We found two candidates that we actually brought to the facilities committee to get their take on things, and they agreed and recommend to you that the town hire Stephen Bastek of Tingsboro, Mass.
Is
as,
Stephen here?
He's not here.
No, he's not here tonight.
Not here tonight. I'm presenting his name to you tonight. I'm asking for your permission actually to negotiate terms of employment with him, and I'd bring him back, and bring back to you the proposed appointment for
Okay,
that.
and at
But I
that
wanted
point,
to
we could
get your.
interview with him.
Correct.
Or, so it's not a done deal?
It's not a done deal, but
Okay.
I just wanted to present
Okay.
the candidate that the Facilities Committee recommends, and I think Kate and I as well as.
So what you're asking for is just to work out some more details and bring him back for an interview in the next time?
Yeah, with your permission, I'll meet with him in the interim and bring him back. But as you can see, he's a master electrician and a facility specialist, or has been in the private sector, and has a lot of hands-on experience, which I think our facilities person's gonna need. Frankly, the long list of projects that we need to get moving on, and I think I should say that the school facilities guy, Rob Furtado, was part of the interviews as well, and also agreed that he thought, Stephen would be someone he could work with, would be a good fit for the town. So this is more of an advisory to you that we're getting closer to making an offer to somebody, and we'd bring him in to meet with the board just as soon as we can.
Okay. I just want to add that the Municipal Facilities Committee is moving cautiously. It's going to be, a short-term appointment to start with a 90-day probationary. That's what we're recommending. Just because we've never done this before, and we've never had one before, and, we had choices between people who were really strong in more the managerial area, but had absolutely no, I'm not sure would know what a boiler looked like if they were presented with one, but who
More
would have.
project
Real project
more than
manager
kinda hands-on.
kind,
Mhm.
and then the more hands-on kind, and, so we are making our opening gambit with the hands-on guy. But, and if we made a mistake, well,
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
Great. Well, thank you. I feel it's.
So Tim, is it our understanding that this person would basically go to full-time from part-time for the school at the same hourly rate?
This is
It's a different person.
A different person than.
Well, this is a different person.
The school hired a
Yes.
full-time facilities manager. We have a 19 hours per week position that we're filling.
If we needed it more, would he be willing to go full-time?
We did ask him that, and he would be willing to consider that, but it's funded at a part-time level now, and
Yeah.
that would work as well.
Any other questions, Carrie?
If this is sort of reviewed as temporary, would it be wise for us to hire him on a consulting basis initially?
The Municipal Facilities Committee discussed that and decided that it would really be better to have an employee.
Right. And the funds are in
And
the wages are in a budget that I don't think you could pay a consultant out of a wage account. I think this was intended to be an employee.
Yeah. If he were a consultant, he'd cost a whole lot more.
Well, I don't know.
Well, you don't know what we've advertised as as an hourly rate. It ain't much.
Any other questions, Carrie?
No, it just occurred to me, and I sent an email to Bill Rizzo about this. I haven't heard back, but I said, there are people in town that do this sort of thing and that might be interested in doing it on a consulting basis for the time needed, rather than hiring someone as an employee. But I defer to your judgment. You've been working on this for a lot longer than.
Well, if we can
I
find.
have been thinking about it. So.
If we can find those people, we may be wanting to do that as well in future years.
Yeah. Well, and I have to say, actually, the committee did write a letter to the mosquito saying just that, mother's hours, so to speak, and we didn't get a single bite from that. That's one thing, and the other thing is that Bill was on the committee that did the interviewing, and he met this guy, and he was pretty excited or interested in him and very supportive of him, his
Okay.
candidacy,
I
so.
would like to turn over the energy management system to some qualified individual,
Yeah.
if you
Just
can.
anybody who's breathing.
Well, no, I think,
Alan, any?
I think we should move ahead. Yeah.
Okay, Luke?
Yeah, I agree, and I like the wastewater operator.
yes,
as
yes,
well.
absolutely. He
Yeah,
would,
that's a
and he
nice
offered to go back to school to get the next level, which he would need to do ours.
To do ours, yeah, but
And
I
to
mean,
help out
he's got
the schools.
start.
Yeah, so he's,
Right, and so I mean, technically be back up to the school, right, because it's the school's facility, but.
yes, exactly.
That's good to have that.
Okay, and do you have anything else?
No,
Okay.
I'm very
Anybody here to talk about this? Looks like it's all agricultural commission out here. All right, so, go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bring them in to meet you.
Thank you. Okay, so this next thing it's one of the appointments, right? This is our appointment. Oh, agricultural
was-
commission
Air
goes
Force
first.
Commission's next,
Yeah.
yeah.
You guys don't want to
That's
just
why I
keep
got
sitting out there?
confused.
Both by law.
Come on up. You can, you can just sit
can
here
sit
if you
if
would
you want.
prefer.
Yeah.
And you can all come on up and,
yeah.
I'm David E. Lee, Rutland Street.
Desiree Ball, Prospect Street.
John Lee, Lowell Street.
You left Peter at home, huh?
He's out of town.
watch
Oh.
out.
He's my neighbor, so I should have known that, but I
You've got the
didn't.
chair.
I've got the chair.
Oh, you got the magical sinking chair.
Got the booster seat.
That one if you want, just if you don't want to sit there, yeah.
I'll not fall asleep. Not embarrass everybody. So we sent to the selectmen draft right to farm bylaw. Hopefully you've all had a chance to read it.
Yeah.
The bylaw we adopted from the Massachusetts Association of Agricultural Commissions. They have a bylaw. There are several towns in Massachusetts that have established or reaffirmed the right to farm. Locally, Chelmsford, Littleton, Westford, Lincoln, and Weston all have right to farm bylaws.
Oh, they do, okay.
So this is fairly typical. We took the model right to farm bylaw and made a couple of edits to it. One was more grammatical in nature. Some of the words were reiterated several times, and so we cleaned that up a little bit. The other addition we made to the template bylaw was there was a section 4 in the model about disclosure notification. In the model, there are disclosures that the model seeks to adopt. Typically, notifications happening at real estate transactions. We thought that some of those notices were too onerous and unnecessary in a lot of cases, so we adopted it out of our draft. We would like the Board of Selectmen to adopt the bylaw. It reaffirms what's already written in Massachusetts general law, and we quote chapter and verse in the first paragraph. And so we are here to present that to you.
So does this need a town vote?
Yeah,
This would be,
it's a bylaw.
yeah, this would be a town meeting vote.
We don't adopt it, right? They think we
Right,
can
yeah, we'll go to town meeting.
We'll go to
We're
town
looking
meeting.
for it for our report.
Yes,
For your support.
and so if we did, then presumably, it would be in the warrant, and one of you would get up and speak to it. I just had one quick question as I read through this, and it may just be the scarring of having been on the stage at the time. But does this undo the work we did for the noise bylaw for the chickens?
Yeah, I was gonna ask on that idea.
Because it says.
I knew somebody would come up with a thorny question.
Well,
I mean, it will come up at town
really looks
meeting.
like it.
No, I don't
I'm just
thi-
saying, it looks like it.
So it might. This is specifically about commercial farming.
Yeah, but if I have a commercial farm next to somebody's house and my roosters don't stop crowing, does the noise bylaw allow somebody to take action to?
If I read it the way it's been presented, there's a process, a reconciliation process, that the complaint comes to the Board of Selectmen first and then goes to the Agricultural Commission. neither of whom really want to deal with the issue, but will be forced to. My understanding is, and I'm not aware, and I'm not a process person, is it would not override the
I think
noise
it's actually
bylaw.
the same process that the noise bylaw
Yes.
has.
Exactly.
Right.
So, I mean, I think this is great. I just want to make sure we're not undoing all that work that went into,
I think they're sistered.
yeah, and so I think.
Can I have town council?
Ask town
Yeah.
council.
Yeah.
Review of.
Ask town council to see how we
Yeah,
can
they're not in
live
conflict with
in
each other.
both worlds.
That's
Because
town
the noise
council, make sure they're
bylaw
not in
wasn't-
conflict with each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the noise bylaw wasn't, you can't. The noise bylaw was, if somebody complains, this is your process and your
Right.
remedy.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so I think I just want to make sure that there's still something there. And this is commercial, so obviously the noise bylaw, what does commercial mean?
Well, that's, I was gonna
Yeah.
ask.
So commercial is for production and revenue associated with that production.
Right, and so therefore, because this, we went through this with the noise bylaw, it was a certain revenue, I think it was like $1,500 a year or something, or I may be wrong, it wasn't a lot, but,
None of the language I've seen stipulates a number.
okay.
No, but for this town, we might need to.
Well, no, there
because-
was a there was
Yeah.
something, when we went through, there was a definition of commercial.
Yeah.
And there is a number for tax purposes,
Right.
whether
Right.
you
So,
are commercial
Tim,
or not,
if you
whether you,
wouldn't mind
whether
just,
for farming,
you know,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you're looking for a
$1,500
preferential tax treatment, yes, absolutely, I think it's a minimal number. But
Yeah.
yeah, also, but it's attached to a certain, you have to have a certain amount of land in production also. So there's.
Yes, you're right.
You had to have
It
two
was- it
factors,
was-
you
Yeah,
had
there's-
to have income and,
And about, and
It was,
property.
it was a certain amount, and I think, but I think.
Like 1,500 in sales or something?
I thought it was in 1,500 in sales in 2 acres.
Well, we could-
Yeah, it's actually
Yeah,
more
so-
than, it's more than 2 acres.
the
but-
state is
Well,
505
maybe it was 4
acres.
Yeah, maybe it was more acres than that. You know, so, I mean, you know,
Yeah,
So
well,
I'll just-
yeah, and I'm concerned about odor as well. You know, if one pig can smell as bad as it does, you know, if you have a commercial place next to you that's got a whole bunch of them, it could be pretty irritating to some of the
Yeah.
neighbors.
Mm.
What is their recourse?
Yep.
making sure there's a recourse, not, you know, because, yeah.
Yep. And the resolution of
Yeah.
disputes in section
Yeah,
5.
I mean,
Right,
it
yeah.
falls under
Process
that.
for that.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. The other one, and I only say this because I have no idea what it means, when it talks about access to water services.
Oh, you know?
They can have access to their own well.
Can have access to their
Well,
own
that's,
well. Yep, and potentially if, presumably if someone takes over the cranberry bog and decides to continue to farm it,
mhm.
it would need access to water sources
Okay.
to flow the bog.
It doesn't allow you to
Yeah.
take water from somebody else's property.
Can we ask Tom that one
Yeah.
too?
Yeah.
Section 4.
Yep.
I have a question on the remediation process. There are those in town who would think that we no longer have any Carlisle honey because the bees have all been killed by pesticides that are distributed on farmers' cornfields. How would we address that kind of remediation issue?
Okay, I want to take issue with that one. I think that we're wanting to do even the most modest amount of research. One would probably find that in fact, the largest amount of toxic pesticides that are killing bees are used by homeowners who spray everything in their yards and then use half the container and throw the container in the wash or dump it down the drain. I mean, that is patently, and I don't mean to sound pissy, but it is a patently unfair accusation that's broadly leveled at production agriculture. And yes, it's clearly a problem, but I just think it's unfair to say that farmers are killing the bees.
But so I think having a really good response to that at town meeting
Mhm.
would be important.
Yep,
Because somebody will raise it.
yep, exactly.
I can tell you from my own experience, it was the bear who got my bees this summer. So No, it wasn't the farmers. It wasn't Duffy spraying stuff on his fields.
Yeah.
Well, I
I
agree.
sprayed
It would
for
be
black
something
rot
to
this year.
revisit.
Well, we're only,
It would be helpful.
we're only considering deer hunting, okay, so.
I was thinking about getting a
Thank you.
couple of dogs.
Okay, so, yeah, so I guess, I think this is great. I think we just, it's gonna be making sure that you have the answers for town meeting
And that's-
about odor, about
Noise.
bee-type things,
Mhm.
and about noise. And so I think that, we can ask Tom to kind of look at how this overlaps with the noise bylaw.
Yeah.
And how, just making sure that we're not stuck in a situation where, under the resolution of disputes, where we were before, where there really was, there was a resolution thing, but there was no teeth to it. You could talk, but you could talk and you could talk and you could talk, and there really wasn't anything that you could do about it. So just making sure that there is something there, if there's something egregious that's going on.
No, I think those are all good points. I think that's why we're here at this meeting now, kind of put this in front of you to make sure that all of our Ts are crossed and our Is are dotted. Also understand that this is a reaffirmation of existing law, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
we're not making anything up. This is already out there and in the Massachusetts.
Yeah, we just want to
Yeah.
make sure that it passes.
Understood.
Yeah.
Right.
And I
Thank
do
you.
think it's important to really make sure that people understand what the commercial part is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Outlining what does
I mean,
commercial mean.
If I have a few extra tomatoes and I sell them at, on a table, is that commercial, or is it, what are we talking?
I think it
Given the
is
price of
$1,500 and
tomatoes
5 acres.
yeah, well, that's the thing, and if council goes through that, they'll
Yeah.
pull out those definitions
Yeah.
and say, we need to define this,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they'll make sure it's consistent
Yeah.
with the state, they'll make sure it's consistent with bylaws
We'll
that we've
probably
got.
put back all that
I mean-
wordiness that we took out.
Yeah.
So I would say that, I'm not speaking for the board, but I'm gonna propose that they work with Tim and town council to work through these issues and then come back.
Yeah.
And I get
Good.
comments from council, I'll
That would be
send
great.
them away.
Yeah.
When I was farming in Lincoln, they had a definition for a variety of agricultural pursuits, and one of them was, what was a piggery? And a piggery at that time was 10 pigs.
Mm-hmm.
And we may at some time want to think about whether we want to define certain terms.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And pigs are certainly, I think, in most people's minds, one that, it's the first thing, excuse me, it's the first thing that comes up is, I don't want to live next to a piggery.
Right.
There's, Miss Peabody had probably 100 pigs on her farm in Dover, and nobody ever complained about them, and you'd never know they were there because they were on, 100 acres of pasture.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah, it all depends,
absolutely
all depends how
right.
you house them, yeah.
Yes.
So that might be something you consider defining.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you want to have a wallow, that's,
Right.
Okay.
Good.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
very
Yeah.
much. Thanks
Good
for
job.
all your work.
Yeah.
And are you, because some of you were at 108, are you going to be providing back your thoughts about the Stern Street property?
which?
The
108 Stern Street.
The Stern Street property that we did the site visit for?
Oh, I was there.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're just interested in hearing your thoughts about it. The town has a right of first refusal. So, not now, because you may not have talked about
I
it
would
as
be
a.
happy to hide under the table so you wouldn't know who was speaking.
Yeah, it's not on our agenda, so we can't talk about it now.
Yeah.
But we are hoping that those committees that were there will give us their feedback on, is it worth doing something, what might we do with it, and I think we'll be talking about it in our
So we'll
next.
add that to our agenda
Yeah.
for the next.
Yeah,
Okay.
and when is
Yeah.
your next meeting?
Next
The
week.
third Thursday, so it's,
Okay,
next Thursday.
and that's before we would be
Our
considering
Thursday-
it.
our-
Because we had
our
120
Tuesday.
days, we still have a while, right?
Yeah, I'll remind,
If you could remind
The
everybody
boards
who's
are
there,
on that.
Trails,
Who else
yeah.
was,
Yeah.
who else came?
Trails,
from
cons,
Conscom
planning
at
board.
that meeting?
who else came from, Conscom was.
Not
so the-
Conscom, but the Conservation Foundation.
Yeah, did anybody from CCF go?
No, No.
Was Wayne there?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, Wayne was there.
I never seen it.
So we had everybody, really.
We did, we had quite a turnout.
Yeah.
Impressive.
So
Of
just-
course, everybody wanted to see the house.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, it's our opportunity, not saying, hey, we should do it or we shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Just, you know, you went there, just let us know what you thought. And if we were to do it, why would we do it?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, we're all-
And then,
Thank you very much.
I didn't mean to get on the bandbox.
No, it's fine. It's
All right.
just, I mean, it's a really good point of something we're going to need to address
Yeah.
at town meeting.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, appointments. Not very.
8:15.
We're almost back on time.
Just one appointment for, school facilities manager.
That's why I got
The
confused.
motion makes it sound like we're appointing him as school facilities manager, but really to appoint him to a non-voting seat on the.
Facilities
That's-
Committee.
That's why I got, I read this and I was
Already
thinking,
Take care of that.
really?
They're
Are we
fine.
supposed to
Oh,
be doing
okay.
this? So,
Yeah,
yes.
and these seats are good.
So we want to change this
Yes, that's-
motion
The
then.
motion's totally wrong.
Yeah.
So can I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Robert J. Furtado as a ex officio member of the Municipal Facilities Committee, non-voting ex officio member
I just want to make a friendly amendment that it's of Beverly, Mass.
of Beverly, Mass, sorry.
Is
I
there a
will second.
Okay,
Second.
we have first and second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, Brown eye?
Oscalillo, aye.
Lewis, aye?
Reed, aye?
Kissinger, aye.
Now we're going from left to right.
Yes.
I'm the chair. I'm
I'm
gonna go
sorry, I
first.
just can't go
Yeah,
in
it-
order. Okay, that's our only appointment, cemetery deeds. Here, it doesn't look like there are any.
There are a whole bunch of them. Yeah, all on
they're
my
not in
street.
my book.
All the
And
same
they weren't on the
family.
DocuSign.
Are they planning on dying a lot? I don't know what's going on. It's,
You have them?
I don't have them.
Yeah, I don't have any of them either.
So can't help
they're
you.
not in, they're not in the book.
So they're all up to you?
Oh.
They're not in the book at all.
No.
So should I pull up my?
Section 8, section.
Yeah, no, and they weren't on the DocuSign document either.
Section
Yeah, they
8
were in the
is the
DocuSign.
executive
That's what
session.
I'm looking for.
Yeah, I got the DocuSign.
Could you read them to us then? How about if you suggest a motion and we can say so moved? Does that work?
Okay, I can do that, 'cause, on,
We want to hold these back.
the board might wanna move to vote to transfer land in the public burial ground for Douglas R. Summer of 125 Keith Hill Road at Green Cemetery Lot D-257, grave 1. And move the board vote to transfer land in the public burial ground from Richard Cobb Stevens, Cemetery deed number 121A, grave 1, back to the town of Carlisle.
Planning on not dying. Living forever. Good for him. Good for him.
Move the board vote to transfer land in the public burial ground to Patricia and John Lasky of 203 East Riding Drive at Green Cemetery Lot D-126, graves 1, 2, 3, and 4. Move that the board vote to transfer land in the public burial ground, I think that's down there twice. Move that the board vote to transfer land in the public burial ground, gee, that's on there 2 times.
Yeah, it's 3 different plots.
We got a little stutter.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm missing the important thing. The board vote to transfer land in the public burial ground to Patricia and John Lasky, 203 East Riding Drive, at Green Cemetery Lot D-127, graves 1, 2, 3, and 4. And also to move that the board vote to transfer land in the public burial ground to Patricia and John Lasky of 203 East Riding Drive, at Green Cemetery Lot D-128, graves 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Have a party.
Different, wow, that's 12.
So
There's only
moved.
2 of them.
Is that 2 acres?
Cemetery plots are now 2 acres
It's gonna take
only.
advantage of the farming bylaw.
Okay, somebody say so moved?
I just did.
Okay, so moved. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second, so we have a first and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just a quick question. When somebody transfers it back to the town, we have to pay them, we pay them what
Exactly
they
what
paid
they
for
paid.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
only
Yeah,
what they paid.
yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Good.
In case you
Can't
decide you're
imagine
not gonna
why
die.
they would be buying
There you
8 lots,
12.
12
actually.
lots.
12
Yeah.
lots.
go. Oh, big family maybe.
Okay, so, we have a
They're
first and a
neighbors,
second. No further discussion. All those in favor?
Lewis, aye.
Oscar Lilo, aye.
Brown eye.
Reed, I.
Kissinger, aye.
There we go. See, we
Yay,
can
that worked
follow
very
in order.
well.
Bunch of deeds to be signed, or that goes around.
And why don't you jump right into your town administrator's report?
Okay.
Get Helen
Good,
home.
you're ahead of schedule.
First item, attached to the report, a memo from Chief Fisher regarding the status of the stop sign that was installed last spring at East Street and Rutland Road. The board had asked the chief for a 6-month review of how the stop sign was working out. And you can see from his letter, the statistics on number of people that officers have stopped, and in fact, he thinks it's largely been effective. And
I
Chief
like
offered to come to the meeting, but I told him you didn't think
No,
Yep.
that was necessary.
Okay.
that was interesting. They stopped 14 cars for failing to stop at the sign. A lot of failures to stop.
You know, I like it. It's just
I
a
do
whole
too.
lot clearer as to who's supposed to
Yeah.
stop.
Yes.
And there certainly haven't been any lines there.
Yep.
It's been-
I'm surprised that they even thought that, they said there was, but.
Okay, so, and no complaints.
And no complaints.
All right, thank you.
Chief. All right. Item 2, we have the final ag access agreement with the town of Concord for your execution and season. We had looked at it a couple of months ago, and the board had no changes at that time. Concord is anxious to start billing us for this service, so we'd like to see a signed agreement as soon as possible. But
I think we'll do it next month.
This one?
but it's no different than the version Carrie presented, I think in November.
Thanks.
And so Carrie, you're good with this?
I am, yes. It's basically pay as you go for $50 and change an hour, and we can, either party can walk away in a month.
All right,
That's good to know. All right.
all right. Is there a motion to adopt, approve? What is it?
Sign?
Execute.
I move we authorize the execution of the PEG agreement with the town of Concord.
Second.
Dated January, or to be dated January 8th, 2019, just to make sure it's, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
December, one section. We'll change that.
Okay, is motion in the second, so any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Brown eye.
Lewis, aye.
Oscar Lilo, aye.
Okay, Reed, I.
Kissinger, aye.
Okay, passes unanimously.
Have we appointed the rep?
I don't think,
I move that we appoint Carrie Kissinger as the rep to
Yeah. Haha, he's not here to defend himself.
Quick,
CCTV.
mute him. Thanks.
Did you hear that,
Is it
Carrie?
still called CCTV?
And
No.
I think I'm
MMA
looking
or
for
something.
One to be more administrative in terms of scheduling, you know, how many hours are gonna be needed over the next period.
I move that we appoint Claude Von Rosgen
Yeah.
to, we'll reach out and figure out who it should
Yeah,
be.
Claude would love to do it, I bet.
Yeah. We'll ask, would you ask Claude? Tim?
sure.
Okay.
All right.
He's
Okay.
probably watching us live on YouTube right now. He set that whole
That's
thing
right.
up, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Oh, is it running? No, it's not set up here.
No, it's
yeah.
Oh,
through
it is
this,
back
yeah,
there. Oh,
yeah,
okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
All right, moving on. Also attached to my report, a copy of the quitclaim deed to 2 conservation parcels off of Arrowhead Lane. You'd probably remember being buttonholed by Sylvia at Terry's going away party to
Yeah.
sign this because time was of the essence. So we held on to the agreement pending the board vote tonight. If you did, remember you signed it previously, and it should be attached.
Is there a motion to confirm this signing of the quitclaim deed of 2 conservation parcels that were gifted to the town of Carlisle off of Arrowhead Lane.
So move.
Second?
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, aye. Brown, aye.
Lewis, aye.
Oskalilowite?
Great eye.
Kissinger, aye.
Okay.
You can see the proposed upcoming meeting schedule. However, what we haven't slotted in here yet is interviews for the finalists for fire chief. The search committee has to meet one more time and vote in executive session by roll call vote to recommend finalists to the selectmen. That hasn't happened yet, so we don't yet have a schedule for those interviews, but presumably we could do it in enough time that it could occur at the next meeting on the 22nd.
I think that's unlikely,
Would-
but we'll,
No, well,
we'll
the-
know.
the-
Yeah,
you,
it may be the next one.
You do want to do it at a board meeting, though, that's the impression I got.
Yes.
So it will be the 12th would be fine.
Yeah, because I think we want to not do it off-cycle, because, everybody so closely tracks what our schedule is. I think we want it to, be something that, we want people to know to come.
Okay.
Well, I will not be present on February 12th. I'm going to be in New Zealand, so I will also, unless I have Wi-Fi, and probably, probably the wrong time of day as well.
7 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right, we'll find a time, but, and maybe we will do it off-cycle. But
7 o'clock in the morning the day before.
the January 22nd is the week after next, right? So I guess it's potentially possible.
I'm not here on the 22nd.
you're not here on the 22nd.
Anymore.
No, I'm not here on the 12th.
No, I would have been, but
All right.
I have to go to San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 people scheduled.
No.
Yeah, so, if one other person can't come, I think this is the Deer Committee.
We had that after the 20th.
Is that the 22nd?
Sorry, just booked it today.
Our departmental budgets,
Oh, yeah, household recycling.
Oh, I ought to be here for that one.
yeah.
No, we can-
Sorry. My last trip.
Well,
What's the week after the 22nd?
9th.
did we have a,
Okay, instead of the 22nd?
That works for me.
Can you make the 29th?
hang on.
Uh,
Can I make the 29th? January 10th. Oh, yeah. So we're not doing the 15th, right?
We're not doing the 15th, that's right, I picked that one
Off
off.
of my
We're not doing
calendar.
yeah, that was an
So we-
add-on, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Could, okay, and so then,
If we did the 29th, that I think would give us enough time on the fire department thing.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
if Luke can be here.
Yeah, I'm here on the 29th, yep.
All right, let's
Yep.
do
and I'm
that.
here on the 29th.
And you're here, and Alan, you're here?
Yes.
And Carrie, will you be on Skype?
I will be.
Okay,
Okay, so why don't we
January-
move our next meeting to January
29th.
29th?
Okay, move the 22nd to the 29th.
Yep.
Okay.
7?
Yeah, and I think the 12th is in 2 weeks out, so you're kind of
Right.
still on a 2-week
Yeah.
schedule.
Yep.
Yeah,
Doing it that way.
Okay,
okay.
Okay.
all right.
And then, so the 22nd, no BOS. If I don't delete it, I will show up.
Bear with us, everybody watching, while we make sure we don't miss this
We don't mess
meeting.
this up.
Yeah.
Everybody on the phone, right?
Well, it's the.
No. I'm old
Put it in
fashioned.
the calendar, it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, look at
The
that thing,
calendar,
wow.
it gets done.
So much faster.
It really is. It really is. But see, now my wife already knows. Bang, she got a notification.
Huh.
Yeah, she doesn't know about my trip though yet.
She does now.
She does now.
She's watching.
No,
on
she's not
TV.
watching. Who the hell watches this?
All right, so we are not gonna be meeting, just so everybody knows, we are not gonna be meeting on the 22nd of January. We are gonna be meeting on
29th.
I'll delete that later. Okay. Anything else? Okay.
Liaison reports.
Yeah, let's just pass these over here, I'll do them later.
15th is off the table also, right?
Yes.
Right. Yep.
Okay, so let's jump to liaison reports. I think most of mine are going to be in the executive session.
Didn't do that one right. Oh my God, look, I'm going to San Francisco every 3 days for the next year, apparently. Oh, God. She just
All
got
right, so
6,000
while
notifications.
he's trying to figure that out, let's move on to minutes. We have minutes for December 11th. And an amendment to the minutes of April 10th.
April 10th.
Yes.
Okay.
So I will explain this. So we'll do the April 10th first because it's earlier in the calendar.
Yeah.
So Carrie noticed that on the April 10th meeting minutes, it had been stated that the Center Park issue needed, you may recall that we were saying that we need to have something in place. We had said by December 31st, 2018, that so by, if there wasn't anything in place by December 31st, we were going to go ahead and ask DPW to manage the park.
Yes.
Carrie noticed that in the minutes, it accidentally said July 2019. Jen reviewed the video, and in fact, we had said December 31st.
Yeah.
So that was confirmed. So this isn't changing what was said, it's just making the minutes reflect. Do you want to add anything to that, Carrie?
Put these, I don't forget.
This is
No.
just on the minutes. We can bring up the other topic.
Yeah. No, I have nothing to add.
Okay.
I move we amend the minutes of April 10th with regards to the motion voted for the Center Park management options.
Second?
I guess I just would add as a point of information that the founder of Center Park has read those same minutes on the town website that said July 2019.
And so, okay, yes, but, okay.
Yeah, we can talk about, if this makes us want to change our strategy at all, but at least let's just correct the minutes.
Yeah.
Because
I'd like to treat them as two different things, if that's okay with you, Carrie.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Okay,
I definitely recall that that was the intent.
yep, okay,
Sure.
and so we would move the amendments of the minutes regarding the motion as presented tonight, right? Is there a second?
Second.
So Kate made the motion,
Second?
whatever your name is, seconded it. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
No, it has to be.
Brown
roll call.
eye?
No, Oscar
See, that's why I always go first.
Lewis, aye.
Reed, aye.
Kissinger, aye.
Okay.
Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, and December 11th minutes.
I just had one change that was of any importance. Under library trustees, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth paragraph, last sentence should read, "The budget will continue to increase and will cost over $205,000 after 5 years as a result of adding the requested 6K. It said that it would just continue to increase every 5 years. Well, that's not at all what was said,
Okay.
so that does have to be clarified. So,
Any other edits?
then there's a typo, there's on the top of one page. Instead of the designation, it should be the designated finance committee liaisons.
Okay.
That's all.
And Jen hasn't seen these.
She hasn't. Normally I get these to her beforehand and we get in the.
I gave her a whole bunch
packets.
of corrections this morning, but they're showed up in here already.
Okay. Oh, they're in this one?
In this
I
And
packet.
the one that's in the pack.
I didn't
Yeah,
read this
see,
one.
and I didn't read that one in the packet.
Okay,
either.
were they typo or were they
Well,
substantive?
they were substantive in that there's a new selectman called Alan Brown.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. That means one of us can go.
That's right.
Okay,
And it also had you voting on something after you left the meeting, but that's been corrected also.
okay.
Oh, there it is. Seconded by Alan Brown. Yeah. And I totally missed that. Okay.
Okay,
Sorry.
so it was things like that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
It was all, I mean, nothing substantive in terms of policy or anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there a motion to approve the minutes of Tuesday, December 11th, 2018 as amended?
I move we approve the minutes of December 11th, 2018 as amended.
Second?
Okay, first and second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Lewis, aye.
Oscalillo, aye.
Brown eye.
Reed, aye.
Kissinger, aye.
We got it.
I feel like I should be a
Only
conductor.
took 3 hours.
I need a black.
I'm just going to give her these 2 pages.
Okay, and so liaison reports.
I haven't been attending, but have been monitoring a huge amount of activity in the Energy Task Force that's been going on over the last couple of weeks with regards to pay to throw and so actually accumulating a great deal of data from around the state on what the pros and cons of that are and what it might cost and what the benefits might be. So they'll be giving us a formal report, but they're making tremendous progress.
Great. Thank you.
I don't think I've gone to anything. Kinda nice.
Tim and I had an IT, Tim's group of IT. We had that meeting, was that last week or the week before, Tim?
I think it was the week before, yeah.
Yeah, and so it was just kind of a, take a look at, where are we? We went through the lists of projects that we had told town meeting and FinCom and the Board of Selectmen that we would be working on. We worked through, I mean, we did a lot of them. And so that kind of made us all feel pretty good that we had gotten so much of it done. There are still more things we need to do. I think we need to focus a little bit more on some of the audit findings from the last time around. And there's more we can do to try to leverage some of the things that we have implemented. But we're working on kind of like what the ask is going to be for this year. Does that, want to add anything?
No, that's, Dave McKay was there as well. We looked at the inventory of the replacement schedule going forward, what we need to do, because this Windows 7 won't be supported in about a year's time, so we've got a lot of machines that are.
Yeah, so we're looking
that
to,
operating system.
Tim is going through the list, right? And I
Yeah.
think and talking to people, so we're looking to kind of get into that mode now where we're operationalizing the replacement of 25% of the computers
Yeah.
at Town Hall every year.
Yeah, makes sense.
Which isn't a huge number of computers,
No,
but
yeah.
it
Needs
doesn't
to be
make
done.
sense to purchase upgrades for an operating system if you're gonna be replacing the
Right,
computer.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
They're so cheap, though.
So how many people are in your IT?
So
committee?
we're interested in other people, but who is officially on it?
It's 5 and 6 now, right? Dave
Mackay.
Jason Chantonay. Is Bill Rizzo still on it? I don't know.
Makes sense.
I think he
Yeah.
doesn't want to be, but
Ted
he
Shaw's
is.
on it.
Ted Shaw, myself.
We invited Bob Supnick.
Oh, did you?
Yes, he hasn't attended yet, but he's interested in being
Yeah,
on
he
it.
is, okay.
There's 5 or 6 people that are
Okay.
part of it.
And the thing about, we really could use more people. Hello? We really could use more
Yeah.
people interested in the technology. What we really need are people who will come in and actually help us implement and, show people how to do it. And, we have the plans. We're definitely interested in people, who want to help with the planning and everything, but we really also, that we don't have a technology person. And so we need somebody who's actually going to be able to have some time to sit down and help us implement things.
And the school IT director, Scott Hefner, is part of the group too. Very good, yeah.
Okay.
Hang on, I've got to turn it.
Must have 400 former deck employees residing in
Nope,
town.
kids are still there.
That's okay. We're almost done. Any other liaison reports?
I just been, the municipal facilities has been meeting weekly.
Oh.
Yeah. Still hammering away at everything, spinning the wheels. But
Okay.
it's been no fault of their own, I mean, it really isn't. Every time we look at a site, we find more problems.
Yeah.
Stop looking.
I know, but you know,
Close your eyes.
yeah. So, I'll let you know.
All right. Carrie, did you have anything?
Well, just,
Oh, you can turn them
about
back
the
down.
Deer Committee, there's a copy of the Deer Committee report in your packet.
Yeah.
The full report. And in terms of the fact that only 3 people voted at the Deer Committee to recommend that a question go to town meeting, they had a quorum. The 2 people that abstained were hunters and felt, I think, I wasn't there, but I think they felt they should abstain because they were part of the hunt and should abstain, so.
Okay. It wasn't that they did it because they were against it.
That's why the vote was as it was.
Carrie, that report didn't include a lot of things that were talked about this evening in the public session. And so I'm wondering if it's complete.
What did you hear the public session that you didn't think it was?
Yeah, things on,
Oh, no, it did have something about cameras. It had the tree stand orientation, trail usage, and it did have cameras.
I didn't
saw
see
it
it.
in there.
Trail cameras, number
9.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to know.
But there was no recommendation to the Board of Selectmen in there anywhere.
It's true.
On-
You just say there's no policy.
Well, also nothing about whether it goes to town meeting or not.
In the minutes for the meeting on the 3rd, they've included the fact that they did vote to recommend to the selectmen that it go to town meeting and how that vote went.
Okay, because that's not in this, that's not in this
I don't think those
report.
minutes have been approved yet, but-
All right, okay, thank you.
Okay, so I think, there may be things that we want to, so it seems like, for our next meeting, Carrie, we should have this report, the minutes, and what the article would say, right?
The town warrant article.
The town warrant article.
Is it more like a resolution than because I don't think you can mandate it, right? Isn't it just kind of the sense of town meeting that either the town supports or doesn't support the continuation of the, I wish I'd asked the question when Wayne was here, whether you can do a binding question or not. It might just be,
find out?
might just be advisory, but I mean,
Yeah.
treat it as binding, whatever
Mhm.
the town
Sure.
said,
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess we might just want to word it as, the Board of Selectmen, while authorized to provide this, to allow this, is looking for direction from town meeting as to whether or not they want to continue to allow the Board of Selectmen to authorize hunting on town meeting, therefore keeping it within the Board of Selectmen, but getting the town to either support or not support the Board of Selectmen deciding to do it.
Yeah, what does the bylaw say? The bylaw basically gives the Board of Selectmen permission, right? So
Right.
it would either remain the same, or we would change that bylaw, right? So, because it's already in there, so you'd need a
Right.
2/3 vote to change it to not allow. So I guess that's, council would reword that, right?
If you want to do that, you may want to keep the permission within the board, but the board goes on what the sense
Yeah.
of the town is.
That's what I was
Oh,
saying.
so you don't want to change the, I got you.
But
We're
I
not
was
changing
just,
the bylaw.
I was
Oh.
just saying, we can
Okay.
do it now. We did it this year, town, is it okay if we,
Yeah.
we're not
Okay.
gonna ask
Gotcha,
you every
gotcha.
time, we just wanna, get confirmation that it's okay that the Board of Selectmen is able to
approve hunting on town-owned lands.
Mm.
And if the town says, okay, well, then then it would still fall on us to make sure that if cameras
Yeah.
were allowed, cameras, and not put that all before town meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
yeah.
no.
Okay, gotcha.
Right, and
Yeah.
we'll discuss this all again
Yeah.
later, because this is just a liaison report.
Right, yeah.
We will discuss this in the next meeting
Yeah.
if somebody remembers.
Yeah, we don't want them voting on the bylaw.
No,
Right.
all right.
Okay, so I think that's it, and so I think that we are going to have somebody read this motion to move into executive session.
If I can find it again.
Hey,
Here it is, I got it, yep.
I move that the board enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, paragraphs 2 and 3, to discuss strategy with respect to the police union contract, the teachers' union contract, and the police chief's employment agreement, as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the town's bargaining position, and that afterwards the board will not return to open session.
Is there a second?
Second,
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
USI.
Oscalillo, aye.
Brown eye.
Read aye.
Kissinger, aye.
Got it twice in a row. Thank you very much. That
We are
concludes our public portion.
Oh,
Beautiful.
lights out.
Look at us working as a team. Even the lights are on board.
9:05.
Boy, was that